I'll let you read it.
Good afternoon. Welcome everybody here. Probably a little odd to see me sitting here with Judge Vogel, but have fun with the judge. I'm sure he's out trying to buy a new 90-foot yacht in Oldham County. But I'm honored to be able to sit in this time. I would ask Jared to please call the roll.
Thank you. We have a few people that are at the KLC conference, so there are going to be a few new faces at the table today. But to start the roll, Honorable John Black, Honorable Bernard Bowling, Honorable John Logan Brent, Honorable Sean Crothers, Honorable Byron Chapman, Honorable Beverly Chester Burton, Honorable Jack Kaufman, Mr. Matt Munay for the Honorable Bill Dira.
Here.
Mr. Brian Dixon, Mr. John Park for the Honorable David Eaton.
Here.
Mr. Jeff O'Brien for the Honorable Greg Fisher. Honorable Jeff Gahan. Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges.
Here.
Honorable Dan Eisen.
Here.
Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable Todd Pollock.
Here.
Mr. Kevin Beatty for the Honorable Brian Ramsey.
Here.
Honorable John Riley.
Here.
Honorable Joe Robinson. Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
We have Mr. Travis for the Honorable Jim Travis. And I would like to make this introduction. He will be joining our board full-time in January as the new Spencer County Judge Executive. So thank you. Thank you for being so involved. I think it's going to make your orientation to KIPDA a lot easier. You've been sitting on so many committees. So thank you for being here.
I want to thank my judge for inviting me.
Honorable David Vogel. And we have our attorney, Mitzi Wyrick, sitting in for the board to give us a quorum.
Very good. Thank you. Again, welcome for those of you that have elections. I know this is probably a time where you would rather be out knocking on doors, but I thank you for being here so that we can move forward with a lot of the activities that are so important to all of us as representatives. You have before you the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, questions, or other concerns? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Summers.
Second.
Have a second. Didn't see who was second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is our August financial statements. Tom.
Thank you. In your packet, agenda item number 5, it starts on page 34, is the August financial report. And as we said previously, early in the year, it's kind of hard to see any trends, but there's nothing that is causing us any alarm on what we're seeing in activity to date. The first page groups activity by work element in each division. We don't anticipate any problems. The following pages are the agency-wide line item revenues and expenditures. And similarly, we don't expect any problems. The last part of the report is the balance sheet, and it shows. It starts on page 41, and it shows that there's sound financial position. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is one that I'm very pleased to be a part of. It's the introduction of our Secretary of State, Michael G. Adams. He is our 86th Secretary of State, the 77th person to serve in that role. Michael is a graduate of Harvard Law School, University of Louisville, 2007, Michael began his full-time practice in election law, first as general counsel to the Republican Governors Association. He has served in many national political figures of this area and statewide campaigns in all 50 states. He was inaugurated as Secretary of State on January the 6th of 2020. I will say, in being a part of that campaign, we were delighted to see him win that race. We know it was a very tough race, and he has done an outstanding job serving our Commonwealth. He introduced Kentucky's first photo ID for voter law, the most ambitious election reform plan since 1899, and had the bill pass both chambers near unanimous support. Michael works in making it easy to vote and hard to cheat, and that's something we like to see in Kentucky. I go back to the days having family coming out of Breathitt County. I can remember my grandfather talking about the votes you could get for a half a pint of whiskey in Breathitt County many years ago. So, Mr. Secretary, we do thank you. The Secretary is married to Christina and the proud father of a child. Mr. Secretary, please come forward. We're honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction. But prefer to be here in person. I spoke to you all on January 20th, 2021, virtually. It's much better, of course, to see you eye to eye. I have a few moments of remarks to give you some updated information on our election process here in Kentucky. And of course, I'll reserve some time for any questions you have or any feedback that you have. So I've spent the last several weeks traveling the state, all corners of the Commonwealth. And the theme of my remarks has been, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. With respect to our election process, it's the best of times. Our voting, our elections, our systems have never been as secure as they are today, but they've also never been as accessible to our electorate, to our voters, as today. We have a lot to be proud of as a state. My communications director, Rashawn Lindstrom, is here, and she can tell you about half the interview requests that we get on a daily basis are actually from national media. They see us as a national success story. We were the first state in the country to successfully conduct an election in the pandemic in 2020. And we are the only state since that time to pass voting reform in a way that's been done in a bipartisan fashion and really improve both security and access. So I certainly won't belabor you all with all the points of that bill. But I want to tell you the reasons that even in just the past week or two, I've become more optimistic about where we are in Kentucky with respect to the challenges that we have. And I'll give you some information about updates made further by our legislature this year, all of which are very good news. So first, as I said, I'm even more optimistic than I was recently. The challenges that we have are pretty unique to our times. In 2020, to put this in perspective, despite all the difficulty of trying to change our election system on a dime, and make voting accessible, but keep voters safe, all the things that we changed very, very quickly. Even with all of that stress, we only lost 2 county clerks, 2 that said, I can't take it and quit. This year, just this summer, we've lost 6. Think about that for a second. And you actually know this better on the ground than I do in Frankfurt, because they're clerks in some cases. It's a difficult time to be a public official. Not just the clerk or the Secretary of State, but of course, all of your positions as well. It's an ugly time. That said, I do think that we've seen some improvements. Number one, the frivolous recount efforts have basically petered out at this point. We've had a number of individuals who ran for office in the primary election in May, lost by large margins, decisive margins, 20, 30, 40, even 60 points these people lost by. And yet they demanded recounts. They sued the county clerks, they sued me, they sued everything they could find to try to basically wrest control of the system. They demanded that the clerks and me step aside, and that they be able to count the ballots. You can see the conflict of interest of having the campaign volunteers count the votes instead of the election officials. As recently as just this morning, another of those was thrown out by the Board of Appeals. So we think that we're done with that. This puts a great strain on our system. having to run elections over and over again in the hope of the result changing. It's very stressful. It leads to everything abuse of our county clerks, false accusations of corruption, ballot clock stuffing, and you name it, as well as on the courts. So these are finally winding down. Some more good news in the last several weeks. Our clerks, and this is true of me too, in our board of elections, but especially the county clerks have been subjected to hundreds and hundreds of very labor-intensive open records requests to produce election records going back many, many years. Some of those are warehoused. Some of those have been destroyed because they're supposed to be. We've got a records retention schedule in state government that we follow with the letter. So some of these records are gone, but we do have an intent that's directed outside of our state to, I believe, intentionally disrupt our elections so that there will be problems, and then they can say, see, we told you the system's a mess. These efforts are led primarily by a pillow salesman named Mike Lindell, who has developed niche marketing of falsely claiming fraud and then uses that to build a loyal following and then sell these people pillows. As recently as a couple of weeks ago, I spent a day with all the county clerks, and they really related to me their frustration with all of this, the abuse that they're getting, the demands that they're getting that are totally unreasonable and unrealistic. This is beginning to finally subside. I think it helps that the pillow guy singled me out in a 6-minute video recently that went national, but we didn't see a spurt in the number of requests on our office. And then shortly after that video came out, the individual was detained by law enforcement. His phone was seized in connection with federal investigation on various counts of fraud and other crimes. And so my hope is that this guy and his ilk and his movement will be discredited, and we can move on and do our job and have a good election. So I'm going to start with that bad news and then move on into some good news. Voter registration is rebounding. So we put out every month, as Michonne can tell you, because she writes it, every month we put out a release of voter registration trends in Kentucky. The first 2 years of my term, every month we put out a release saying that the number of voters in our state has declined. The reason for that is, number one, we take very seriously our responsibility to take voters off the rolls if they shouldn't be on the rolls anymore. We're actually under a federal court order from 5 years ago. And there's statutes on point two. Our job is to keep these rolls up to date, take people off who've passed away. We've taken off 130,000 dead voters in 2 years. Take people off who've been judgmentally incompetent or been sent to prison for a felony. There's various categories of people who at one time qualified to vote, but now don't. This was an issue that I ran on. I think it's an important thing that we be compliant, and we are coming into compliance. The flip side of that, though, is we didn't have voter registration drives going on for 2 years. Normally, in a normal situation, you've got the Democrats and the Republicans out there signing up voters. You've got civic groups signing up voters. All that stopped for 2 years, just evaporated, and we all know why. Slowly but surely, that is starting again. This past Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day, and there were efforts all over the Commonwealth. Both parties did it. Our office did it. The Historical Society did it. Civic groups did it, registering voters. And so what you're going to see over the next several months, I think, is continuation of a trend that's already started of our voter rolls being rejuvenated by people coming into the process for the first time in history. So I'm really excited about that. Some more meat and potatoes for you all. We are upgrading, and you all are aware of this, of course, because you're the ones implementing it. We are upgrading our voting equipment in the Commonwealth. We are going to replace all the poll books with brand new ones. We, over the course of my term, the last 2.5 years, have been upgrading county equipment all across the state. To the extent possible, we've actually held you harmless. We've drawn down some $20 million of federal funds to subsidize the cost of elections in Kentucky. There were 3 very important bills that passed in this General Assembly session with respect to elections and with respect to funding and facts on the ground. So I'll quickly walk through those, and then I'll take any questions or comments you have. The first election bill was the state budget. The state budget is the most important policy document in the Commonwealth because it tells us what we value and what we don't. For many years, as you well know, our state underfunded our elections. Our General Assembly and our governors over the years, I'm not picking on anybody, but they underfunded our elections. That's not just a subjective vague comment. There's literally laws on the books that say you get this much money. And the General Assembly suspended those laws and appropriated less money than what the statute books say. For example, I think before the legislature passed a law that said a 25-cent per registered voter automatic pass-through from the General Assembly to each county. There's been a lot of inflation since 1984. So that number itself isn't a very high number, but even that number was suspended and less money was allocated. I'm pleased to tell you that in this session, the General Assembly, at our request, granted far more funding, stopped suspending that statute, increased the base funding. I'll commend the governor as well. This was a bipartisan decision by both of those branches. So we've increased the base funding for all of your counties. So for every registered voter, you get 25 cents. Beyond that, the state budget also created a fund of $25 million for upgrades of your voting. When I took office in 2020, we had 29 counties that didn't have a single voting machine that could process a paper ballot. And again, the way they don't trust electronics, and I get that. So that's part of the reason that we've drawn down dollars and we've helped upgrade our equipment around the state. Here's the other reason. We have to pivot to absentee voting significantly in 2020. We couldn't do absentee voting without paper ballots. So we did it on that basis. We used COVID funds to pay for most of that. But long-term we benefit because we get to keep the machines and keep using them. So the legislature provided $12.5 million at each annum of the biennial budget. This is free money for your counties. I want to strongly encourage you to send a letter to me requesting funding from this pot of money, whether it is to upgrade your machines going forward or whether it's to essentially reimburse your county for reforms you already implemented before the money was available. Either way, please send those to us. We will take those requests to the Board of Elections and try to get as many of those as we can. $25 million sounds like a lot of money, but it isn't. So every county will be able to get money, or some counties will get all they want. So I will encourage you, please get those requests to us as soon as possible, because to some extent this is sort of first in, first served. Next, we had a bill that made various pro-voter reforms, including expanding voting hours and voting days. And I'm going to make a political comment, not a partisan comment, but a political comment in just a moment. We also had a bill that improved security by implementing video surveillance on our voting machines when they're not in use by voters, banning them from connecting to the internet, and expanding our post-election audit process. Because my math ought to be checked. I've got no problem with that. It shouldn't be done in a frivolous manner, but we've got to audit our books and make sure everything's legit. The political comment is this. The bill that expanded voting hours, voting access this year was passed by almost unanimous bipartisan support, which is to say Republicans voted to expand voting opportunities. That is not true in many states. Many states, Republicans are against expanding access to the ballot. I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'll just tell you here in Kentucky, we do it different. We make voting available to our people. In similar fashion, we had a security bill that did nothing to expand access. It just tightened security. We got most of the Democrats in the legislature to vote for the security bill. We got every single Democratic senator, and we got about half, a little more than half of the Democratic House caucus. Now, why do I point this out? I think the reason that we actually have stricter election laws than Georgia, or Texas, or Florida, and you've seen boycotts and backlash in those states, and yet we don't have those things happening in Kentucky. We don't have boycotts against us. We're not called out by national media or by other states as a place to boycott, not do business. The reason that we have better laws with no backlash is because we're doing this in a bipartisan fashion. We're being fair, we're being intellectually honest, we're getting everybody in a room, just like you all do every day, working across party lines to get the job done. Of course, the higher the ballot you go, the more partisan things get. But my goal is working with our governor and legislature, which are controlled by different parties, to do this in a respectful bipartisan fashion. We can't always agree, but we try to find some consensus, and that's what we've done. So that's why we're the only state with Republicans voting for more access and the only state with Democrats voting for more security. So with that, I want to make sure I leave time for more questions or comments that you have. Thanks so much for having me over today.
Thank you, Mr. We appreciate that. If I may, I'd like to open with the first question. What are you forecasting for voter turnout?
So the Courier Journal ran an article, front page book of Fold, the first of the week, and they said abortion is the X factor. That was a quote from me. X factor means this, it means we don't know. So normally in an election year that's not a presidential election year, our turnout tends to be around 40%. It might be a little bit north, it might be a little bit south, but it's usually in the 40s, low 40s, or high 30s. Right now, I don't know what to expect. I'll have a better sense of that in the next couple of weeks. The portal opens on Saturday for absentee voting. If you're going to vote by absentee ballot, the website where that's available to you to request your ballot for us to verify your identity, that opens on Saturday. We'll open that up, and maybe after a couple of weeks, we'll have a sense of what the demand is for absentee ballots, and then we can project from that what the overall turnout might be. Right now, we don't know. And there's two data points that kind of contradict and cross-cut. One is that this has been kind of a sleepy election year. We only had 19% turnout in the primary, pretty low. It was higher in the counties that had competitive primaries for local office, but it really wasn't high anywhere. And at least today, we have a U.S. Senate race that hasn't really caught fire. We have congressional races that largely haven't caught fire. We have state legislative races that largely haven't caught fire. That can certainly happen, but there's no top of the ticket race that's driving big turnout this time. In 2019, when I was on the ballot, we had 42% turnout, and that was seen as a great turnout, 42. I don't know if we'll hit 42 this time. So on the one hand, it's a little sleepy out there, so maybe low turnout. But abortion is the X factor. We have a couple of constitutional limits on the ballot. One is a fairly technical one about the legislature coming into session on their own call in a state of emergency. The other one is Amendment 2, which essentially, if passed, would prohibit the courts from issuing decisions that create or protect a right to abortion. It would be purely up to the legislature to make those decisions versus the courts. In Kansas, the turnout was way higher than the election officials or anyone really predicted. Part of why that was is because there was a ton of money spent. In Kentucky, there has been fundraising by both sides, by the pro-choice side and the pro-life side. It really hasn't been in the sort of neighborhood that we saw in Kansas. So right now, I don't think that we're going to have the kind of wild turnout that they had in Kansas. I think it's still a relatively sleepy issue. But there's still plenty of time, and these committees that raise these funds to push these ballot measures or oppose them, they're not subject to contribution limits. They can take unlimited personal money, corporate money, anything. So they can raise $1 million with the snap of the finger if they have someone who's ready to write the check. And then it's $1 million on TV, and then that drives the turnout. So the short answer, well, actually it's not a short answer. The short answer to your question is we don't know yet, but we hope to know in the next few weeks. All that said, I don't think that we're going to have 60 or 65% turnout like we would have a presidential year. I think it'll still be in the 40s, even if there's a spike from the abortion question.
Very good. Thank you. Other questions?
Yes, sir.
How is it compared to the effects on the general election and the primary? Is it helping it, increasing it, decreasing it, or what kind of results have you seen outside of
So in May, we had the first implementation of early voting after the passage of our bill last year. We added the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before election day of early voting. I'll be the first to tell you that I can't deny it's common knowledge. We didn't have a high turnout. We didn't have a high turnout in the election overall, and we didn't have a high turnout in early voting. Campaigns drive turnout. Candidates drive turnout. Issues drive turnout. I really can't drive it. But I'll add this. If you look at our neighboring states, Ohio, West Virginia, Tennessee, all states that beat us to the punch by decades in enacting early voting, it took a few cycles for it to catch on. People are sometimes dubious of it, but then they hear increasingly over time from their neighbors or their friends or their family, oh yeah, I voted on Saturday, it was great, there was no line. I didn't have to get off of work. What we've seen in other states, in our region in particular, there's few cycles for it to catch on, and then it becomes wildly popular. My hope is that it'll become popular here. I have no skin in the game what day people pick to vote. I don't care. Pick whatever day you want. But my concern is if we don't use it as voters, the legislature will repeal it. I think they don't do that.
Other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, we appreciate you being here and thank you for all the work you've done to keep us honest.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Our next item is the Transportation Policy Committee. Andy, would you like to give us an update?
Yes, sir. The Transportation Policy Committee met this afternoon at 12:30 in this room. We got done just in time for you all to meet here on time. We had a really busy agenda, so I'll cover a few of the highlights. We had a pair of guest speakers. The first was Matt Ruther. Matt Ruther is from the Kentucky State Data Center. It's over at Louisville. And Matt presented some of their findings from the recently released population projection report, projections of population, households, group quarters populations, those that are in prisons and nursing homes, et cetera, to our committee. So that was a good report for them to hear. The second person, guest speaker, if you will, was Ms. Bernadette DuPont. She's been with Federal Highways Administration for quite some time now, and this is her last TPC meeting. She's moving on. She got promoted within Federal Highways. For those of you that met Bernadette, she'll be missed around these parts. But Bernadette was here today to present the federal certification review findings. You may recall back in June, I came to this body and told you what those preliminary findings were. That happened right in advance of that June TPC and board meeting. And so we're real happy about the findings. We got 5 commendations. She said that's the most anybody has gotten. We got 2 corrective actions. That is 2 things you've got to fix. Otherwise, next time there's repercussions, both of which are straightforward and will get done. And then several constructive criticisms in the form of recommendations. So overall, it was a really good report. I'm proud of our transportation staff for their hard work over the last 4 years. Our next one will be in 4 years from this summer. So about 4 years from right now. So summertime 2026 is our next one of those. Most of the rest of the agenda was a series of staff presentations that were pretty important. So because they're part of our new project development process for our long-range transportation plan known as Connecting Kentucky to 2050, that's something that we hope to bring to the TPC in February with the draft and then April for their adoption, February and April of 2023, that is. First of which was a congestion analysis where we've analyzed the congestion in our region a little bit different, and we're utilizing some fancier or higher tech techniques, utilizing some of the software or subscription software that we have that provides us far more robust data than we've ever had. So we've got congestion data down to the pretty small segments on all the arterial roads and all the interstate highways in our region. And then we've gone with the tried and true methods we've used in the past on what are known as the collector roads. Next was Valerie Moore presenting our freight network. We've updated our freight network. Some might remember that back in 2017-18, we had a KPDA freight plan. At that time, we created a freight network, and this is the first update of that. And then Zach Herzog, our GIS manager, he presented a crash analysis. So again, we've got congestion, we've got freight, we've got safety. All 3 of those components and then some are part of this project development process for that new long-range plan and the call for projects that we have ongoing through October 31st. So for those of you who weren't at TPC, I want to remind you that that deadline is October 31st. That is the deadline to get all of your new projects into KPDA that you want to see in our long-range plan, and all new funding requests for our TIP, that is our shorter range document transportation improvement program. With that, I think I'll leave it right there unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, this report will require action. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say again to highlight Andy and his whole team. It's really impressive how their federal certification review findings, the 5 accommodations, as he alluded to, were the most ever given during the federal certification review, and that's nationally. So it speaks volumes to the talented staff that Andy and his team have. So thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Next item is Cleaner Water Grant Program. Justin.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. I have 6 contracts in board approval this afternoon. You do all our update on Cleaner Water Program. We're going through round 2 right now. I visited all of your all's counties and conducted all of the county water management council meetings to get a general consensus for how you want to distribute those round 2 grant funds through your all's communities. And we are finalizing those right now. Henry County is the last county that I have to get those finalized with, and then the deadline is October 14th. So Friday, October 14th, the deadline to get all those to KIA, and we're going to beat that and move forward. These contracts are for round 1 projects that we have already gotten the funds distributed to, but KIPDA and our Community and Economic Development Division staff will be assisting in administering these. The first one is for the Oldham County Water District. It's for the storage tank US 42 and Liberty Lane project. The total Cleaner Water Program grant amount for that is $624,600, and the admin fee will be $15,600. The second one is also with the Oldham County Water District. It's a Highway 1694 Penny Lane Waterline Extension Project. They actually got some funds through the unserved water pot of Cleaner Water Program funding for that. We're going to be administering that for $7,360. The third is in Trimble County, the city of Bedford, for their wastewater system improvements project that we've been working on for quite some time now, is coming to completion up there. We got $250,000 earmarked from Cleaner Water Program funds for that project, and KIPDA staff will be administering that for a contract admin fee of $6,250. Next is Lagrange Utilities in Oldham County. Their project is the Lagrange North Interceptor Sewer Project. That total is $218,586, and we'll be administering that for $5,500. And also in Trimble County, the city of Milton Sewer, the Milton Wastewater Treatment Plant Replacement Planning Project is slated to have us administer that as well, and our admin fee for that will be $1,375. And then lastly, in Henry County, the filter #1 rehabilitation project in Henry County Water District #1, we'll be administering that for $1,000. Administrative work for this details environmental review, consulting with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, with the State Historic Preservation Office, and helping them with all their exhibits, conditional commitment letters, and assistance agreements with resolutions and procurement to help them move forward at a timely manner so they can get their funds dispersed and we can get these projects going. So that's on our report, and action is requested to please approve these 6 contracts today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for your work for the committee's knowledge. At the governor's conference, I grabbed Justin. I declared an emergency on some raw sewage problems I had. He was able to put a meeting together in about 10 minutes. We got the thing resolved, and Justin, I can't thank you enough for how quick you moved on that and how quick we got it resolved. I thank you and the members here at KIPDA. With that, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Have a second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Question.
Next item is new grant opportunities for hazardous mitigation. Ryan.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, I just wanted to give everyone a quick update. I received a memo earlier this month from Jenny Jo Bronner, our State Hazard Mitigation Officer. It was in regards to a recent presidential disaster declaration. And in conjunction with this declaration, there's going to be an expansion of some hazard mitigation grant program funding. This grant funding will be similar to the previous hazard mitigation grant program funding. 75% of the eligible costs will be covered by federal funds, with the additional 25% being covered by non-federal funds. 12% will be covered by the state, and 13% match from the local applicant. These hazard mitigation program funds can be used for projects including acquisition, demolition, and elevation of flood-prone or landslide-prone structures, engineered stormwater control projects, community tornado safe rooms, flood-proofing, non-residential building, flood-proofing of non-residential buildings, seismic retrofits, and utility protective measures. Additionally, up to 10% of these funds can be used for initiative projects, which are projects for which a benefit cost analysis is difficult or impossible to conduct. Some examples of these types of projects include outdoor warning sirens, NOAA weather radios, and other types of warning systems, generators, and mitigation educational outreach projects. Additionally, 7% of the available HMGP funding can be awarded for mitigation planning projects. These are things that kind of go into the front end of mitigation planning, such as updating our state hazard mitigation plans, or state and local hazard mitigation plans. So for this funding, interested applicants have been asked to submit mitigation action forms by Thursday, October 15th. That's a pretty quick turnaround. If you all have any projects in your communities that you see need for this funding, feel free to reach out to me or somebody on Ced Division staff. And I just want to let y'all know that we are standing by and ready to help with the administration of that funding should you need it. And I don't believe there's any action requested for this report. Just wanted to give you all a quick update. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next item is Ced Committee report. Ethan.
Hello, for those who don't know me, I am Ethan Stroggy. I am the new CED planner. Been here for a little over a month now. So one of the first items that I was tasked with was the creation of the CED, or the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. For the first year, we created a CED Committee to get together and discuss the development of the CED. And we had our third meeting yesterday. It's been going very well, very smooth process. The committee's been very engaged and responsive to any of my inquiries. And yesterday we approved various sections of the CEDS. There's still a few items that are pending. We have the action plan, which is really the big portion of the CED. We're still working on that. And we're going to give final approval of the action plan in October. And then we also have a couple resiliency sections within the CED that we're going to update, as well as the evaluation framework. But the process has been going very smooth so far. The timeframe that we're working on is full CED committee approval on October 19th. That'll push us into a public comment period that'll go through November 18th. And then we will be, in front of you again in November, probably November 22nd, I believe, for full board approval. And then after that, we will be submitting the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy to the EDA for approval. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. No action is required on this report. Next item, Division of Social Services Business. Jessica.
These things interesting, so I'm going to have you an updated agenda. Those of you online should have received one from Ms. Tricia Forbes. Excuse me for the pause. That's all I can see all the time. I want so you get to. So I have two items for you, which I will take separately. The first one is related to our long-term care ombudsman program. Catholic Charities is our provider for long-term care ombudsman. Some of you may be familiar, some not. Legislation has changed for assisted living facilities. So Dale has pushed out an initiative to begin in October for long-term care ombudsman to provide services in assisted living facilities. Also at the direction of Dale, there was specific funding for ARPA, what they call ARPA 1 and ARPA 2 for long-term care ombudsman. They would like us to push that directly to the provider, and I'm requesting permission to do so today.
Are there questions? We have a motion to do so.
So move.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Second one. C1 procurement occurred, as you know, in this past fiscal year. Since that procurement, at the direction of Dale, there have been some significant changes to our taxonomy, which is our definitional protocol, our assessment, and our system. Mr. Haley and I met together with providers and our legal team to discuss C1 eligibility. C1 is the eligibility that is in congregate sites out there face to face. We spoke to each of them, and we have determined that C1 registration in its entirety should be completed on site and in person. We spoke with Tri-County Community Action Agency, Multipurpose and Louisville Metro Senior Nutrition Program. That's a lot of letters. And they have agreed to take on the additional tasks. So C1 already has eligibility out there. They did a portion of it. We were doing a portion of it internally. We'd like to take that portion and push it back out to them. They're in agreement with that. I'm asking your approval to do so in the month of October. So we are redistributing funds that we had on each side to them.
Are there any questions?
Do you need extensions for like Tri-County?
I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Abstain.
Tri-County and multi-purpose.
Other questions?
As well, multi-purpose, so stay.
I will also abstain from multi-purpose.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And I'll have Judge Summers with purpose.
Okay, yeah.
You want me to do a provider by provider? Is that make it easier?
That might be better just since
Okay, thank you,
there's so
yes.
many are covered in this room.
So I'll take the first approval to do so with Louisville Metro Senior Nutrition Program, which I don't believe needs any extension.
Motion to approve.
So move.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
The second piece for Tri-County Community Action Agency.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Motion.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And Chairman, the last one for Multipurpose Community Action Agency.
That all abstain.
Thank you.
Abstain.
Motion.
Motion. Second.
I would say too.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. You guys are playing games with me. You knew I was new chairman. I knew this would come.
No apologies.
It's quite. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 12, we will pull from the agenda and we will move to item 13, connect open enrollment update. Beth.
Hi, everybody. I am the Connect team leader here. And I just have a quick update. I didn't have anything included in the board packet, so I'm going to pass these around. This has information about Connect and the qualified health plans and how you can apply the premium tax credits. So for Connect, Medicaid and the marketplace plans are both on the platform. The Medicaid open enrollment this year will be October the 15th through December the 1st for plan year 23. The state-based marketplace of qualified health plan enrollment will be November the 1st through January the 15th for plans beginning January 1. One bit of good news with the Inflation Reduction Act, the increased tax subsidies that were implemented due to the ARPA funding have been extended for 2 more years. We know that there is still quite a bit of unemployment, so people are less likely to have employer-sponsored insurance, and to continue to make those plans more affordable for people who don't qualify for Medicaid. Plans will be available, 2023 plans to view in the portal beginning October the 15th. And the QHPs will be the same company as last year. There are 4: Better, Anthem, CareSource, and Molina. We're also working on coming up with a procedure through the agent and connector, the statewide subcommittee, how connectors can work more closely with insurance agents there are, even though there are only 4 companies, for an example, right now there are 50 plans available in Jefferson County alone. So that is quite a lot to sift through for people that are shopping. And so to make that customer service experience better, to work with agents who may understand some of those, the plan language and some of the specifics better than some of our connectors. Right now, we have an estimated 1.4 million people enrolled in Medicaid, and we're anticipating when the public health emergency ends likely next year, that there will be about 80,000 who are currently on the Medicaid rolls who will need to purchase one of those qualified health plans. So they will be granted a special enrollment period. This will also include members who should have applied for Medicare but missed their enrollment opportunity because they didn't think they needed to apply because they were on Medicaid. So those, after open enrollment ends, that were for a second enrollment, and it feels like we've been in open enrollment for 2 years now. So my team currently averages about 60 outreach events per month in all of your counties. If you have an event you want us to come to, please call us. In the fall, around open enrollment, we always focus on the Halloween activities. I know there's a big one, I think in Henry County, Streets and Trails, I can't remember, we did it last year, there were about 400 people there. Excuse me. So please let us know if you'd like us to come out. We're happy to do so. Connectors can also now help with SNAP and the Child Care Assistance application. So if you have any of your residents who may qualify for benefits, we are a much quicker phone call than calling DCBS, and we're happy to help. Any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, September personnel report, Kelly.
That would be me. Okay, so we've had 2 new hires in September so far. Felicia Harper, who's right here, y'all probably remember her. She's been hired as our Director of Community and Economic Development effective Tuesday, September 6th. She earned a bachelor's degree in urban geography and a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Louisville. She comes to KIPDA from Bullitt County Planning and Development, where she worked as executive director. Prior to that, she worked as an economic development specialist for KIPDA for over 6 years. So welcome back. We also had a hire in our Division of Social Services, Mariah Owens, who started as a service advisor effective September 12th. She earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from Midway University. She comes to KIPDA from WDRB, where she worked as a media coordinator. And actually, Mariah had worked at KIPDA before as well. We have the following position vacancies: a service advisor for the Home and Community-Based Waiver, a case manager for the Michelle P. Waiver. We have a Transportation Planner 2 position open. These positions are listed on our website at kpda.org. And our current staff count is 82 full-time permanent and 2 part-time permanent. This concludes my report. If there are no questions, action is requested to approve it.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Next item is FY 23 agency-wide budget revision. Tom.
Thank you. In your binder or packet, the item 15 is the agency budget revision, and it starts on page 47. And we're just showing the recap here. We've had some adjustments in revenues and some minor adjustments in expenses. The first page, page 47, shows what we're proposing currently based on the information that we have now on revenues. And the page 48 was the budget that was approved at the July 28th meeting. Give you an idea of comparison, but we still, as we had originally, we feel like we'll be able to carry out all our responsibilities with the funds available, and we'll continue to work at that and make the best use of the fund. One new item at the bottom of the page on 47, we've got a capital purchase of $40,000. A couple items later on the agenda will be some more discussion of that. But that's money that will be paid out of the capital, general fund, and it won't be an expense. It will be expense to our programs through depreciation, but it won't be shown as a line item charge of $40,000 that you'll see, but we'll start depreciating that after purchase. Glad to answer any questions. anyone might have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Let's see a second. A second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Tom. Next item is Cram insurance policy renewal. Tom.
Thank you. We have a crime insurance policy and each year we send in a new application and we've been covered by Great American Insurance Group and they've given us a premium quote of $6,740, which is an increase of about 10% over what it was last year. And in talking with the agent there, he indicated that we had a slight increase in the number of staff and an overall increase, not here Kppa, but overall increase in crime has caused the rates to go up some, but we request permission to renew for $6,740.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a motion? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is one that I think got more comments than anything that I've seen recently, and I thank everybody for the comments. It's the purchase of an agency vehicle. And Jared, I will let you justify that.
Shortly before I was named executive director in August of 2018, the prior director, Jack Couch, had an accident on 71 that was a total loss of the vehicle. So when I was named director, I was told at the time to evaluate travel needs and then we could explore purchasing an agency vehicle down the line. So 2020 came, we had a pandemic, obviously reduced the need for travel, but as we have come back out of the pandemic, travel has increased. I've been on the road a lot. Just since the last meeting, I've gone to London, Western Kentucky, trips to Frankfurt and around the region. So my request, which I spoke with the executive committee, was the purchase of an agency vehicle to be used for agency activities. We had looked at the state price contract, which is currently for Ford vehicles with Paul Miller Ford in Lexington, and looked at the Explorer. Speaking with the executive committee, they suggested the four-wheel drive version of the Explorer. So my request for the board is their consideration of the approval for a purchase of a vehicle for the use of the executive director and agency activities. The Explorer XLT and the price contract is $39,523. And then also we had asked for $200 for all weather floor mats. If anybody has been to a car dealership lately knows there are no cars on the dealership lots. So they are looking at 5 to 6 months out from order to delivery of a vehicle, but that is my request for board consideration.
Are there questions on this? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We got Jared, a four-wheel drive. Question, sir.
Yes, one question. You said 5 to 6 months. You get it?
Yes, sir.
In your intro, what's
I have been,
anything you read?
I've been just driving my vehicle and charging mileage to it. And as those know, I've already lost one vehicle since my time. That was a total.
that include trips through Peewee Valley?
Yeah,
No, 6 months, you put a lot of miles on it.
I've put a lot of miles on my vehicle in the 1 year I've had it.
One thing the executive committee said, get a four-wheel drive. That way you can go and get everybody and pick them up when the weather's bad and nobody not have an excuse to come to work. So we thank you. And I think all in favor, we were all very good. Thank you. Next item, intergovernmental reviews, Jared.
We have 2 items, the Shelby County Jameson Ridge and Jefferson County Jameson Ridge. Both of these have been sent out for a local comment. They've received approval with no concerns. So these 2, A and B, can be taken together. So action is requested.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, executive director's report.
To start, I want to just welcome Mayor Beverly Chester Burton. She joined shortly after the roll call, so I want the minutes to reflect Mayor Burton joining us. And Looks like Whitney's already left, but we did have Whitney Meadows with Rand Paul's office here also, so I appreciate her coming. We have 3 items of travel for board approval. The first 2 are for ratification. The first was the Kentucky Association of District Directors Peer Support. This is within our ad directors group. We have a small number of directors that go to other ads to visit to see how their operations are run and to really kind of share best practices. And the first one that I went to was in London, Kentucky at Cumberland Valley. So the total estimate on that, or total cost on that, was about $395. The second was the Kentucky Association of Mitigation Managers. This was a conference in Erlanger, Kentucky, where Ryan Lloyd attended. Ryan has been designated kind of our hazard mitigation lead within the division. So this was a good opportunity for him, not only for educational purposes, for networking. So if I could ask for board approval or ratification of those 2 travel items.
So I have a motion to approve. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And the third item for approval is the KPPA Annual Forum and Expo. This is a procurement training. It's in Owensboro, Kentucky, October 18th to the 21st. We have 3 staff members requesting to attend. The first being Jennifer Wilson in the Community Economic Development Division. She is our lead working with our cities and Spencer County with the ARPA administration. So the procurement is obviously a critical component of the ARPA contract. So she had requested to attend, as well as Tricia Forbes and Cheryl Vandiver, our finance staff in the Division of Social Services. The total estimated cost for the 3 to attend is $2,680. Action is requested.
Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And our meetings for next month, the first, the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee, that meeting has been canceled. So our meetings in October are the Transportation Policy Committee, October 27th at 12:30. The Regional Transportation Council, October 27th at 1 o'clock. And then the October KPDA Board of Directors meeting, October 27th at 2 o'clock. And all 3 of these meetings will be held here at KPDA. Transportation Policy and the board meeting here in the Burke Room, and the Regional Transportation Council in the room, the adjoining room next door. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Just in closing, I would ask that the minutes reflect that the Shelby County judge did not attempt to annex any part of Judge Vogel's district while he was out. And I thank you all. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. I have a motion, second. All